I stood in the center of the atrium, my heels clicking against the imported marble like a gavel striking a judge's bench. It was 11:51 p.m. Around me, 3 servers were quietly packing up untouched trays of Ocetra caviar and pouring vintage Dom Perignon down the drain. The string quartet had packed their cellos hours ago. My $3.8 million glass cliff estate was perfectly silent, save for the hum of the climate control. I checked my phone. One notification. It was from my mother, Susan. "We're exhausted, honey." Adam's futon was a nightmare to assemble. Rain check. I stared at the screen. They hadn't missed my housewarming because of an emergency. They missed it because assembling a cheap piece of furniture for my 19-year-old brother was more important than celebrating the empire I built. Before I tell you how I dismantled them, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. My pulse didn't even spike. In my world, panic is just inefficient code. I simply turned to the head caterer and said, "Pack the rest. You can go." My voice didn't shake. It was clinical, precise. The kind of tone you use when you realize a long-term investment has finally gone insolvent. I walked through the empty halls of the East Wing. This house, this sprawling architectural marvel suspended over the Pacific, was supposed to be my victory lap. I had designed it with them in mind. The guest suites were soundproofed for my father's light sleeping habits. The kitchen was stocked with the specific brand of organic tea my mother claimed she couldn't live without. I had built a castle to protect them, to impress them, to finally earn my place at the table. But as my footsteps echoed in the vast empty corridor, I realized something I should have known years ago. I wasn't the queen of this castle. I was the architect of my own loneliness. The silence in a house this big isn't peaceful. It's heavy. It presses against your eardrums. It's a physical reminder of the space between who you are and who you wanted to be for them. I had built a fortress, but the drawbridge was up and I was the only one inside. The ocean crashed against the cliffs below, a violent rhythmic thud that sounded like a heartbeat the house didn't have. It was a museum of a life I hadn't lived yet, curated for an audience that preferred the mud. I pulled up Instagram. I needed to see the data. And there it was, posted 40 minutes ago. A photo of my parents, Robert and Susan, sitting on the floor of a cramped, chaotic luxury apartment. Pizza boxes were stacked on a designer coffee table. My brother Adam was in the center wearing a hoodie, laughing with his mouth open. My father had his arm around him, beaming in a way he never looked at me, not when I sold my first app, not when I bought this house. The caption read, "New beginnings for our boy. First night in the new pad. Number priorities." Number priorities. The word burned itself into my retina. The contrast was visceral. Here I was surrounded by the scent of expensive lilies and the cold perfection of glass and steel. There they were, smelling of pepperoni, cheap cardboard, and unconditional love. They didn't hate my success. They were intimidated by it. My success required them to level up, to meet me on a plane of excellence they couldn't reach. Adam's incompetence. That was comfortable. That was familiar. His neediness made them feel useful. My independence made them feel obsolete. I looked at my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling window. My dress was silk, my posture rigid. I looked like a statue. "Okay," I whispered to the empty room. I wasn't sad anymore. Sadness implies a loss of something valuable. This wasn't a loss. It was a data point. A final, irrefutable metric confirming that the ROI on this relationship was 0. I opened my security app. I found the user profiles for mom and dad, the digital keys I had set up just yesterday, giving them 24/7 access to the estate. I hovered my finger over the delete button. I didn't press it. Not yet. Deleting a key was too small, too quiet. If they wanted to prioritize Adam, fine. I would let them, but I was going to make sure they understood exactly what that prioritization cost. I turned off the lights in the East Wing, plunging the museum into darkness. I walked to my office, sat down at my desk, and opened my laptop. It was time to audit the books. My laptop screen glowed blue in the darkness of my office. I wasn't looking at my company's profit and loss statements. I was looking at the family cloud account, the digital archive of every receipt, invoice, and financial transaction my father had carelessly synced over the last 5 years. He always said he was bad with tech. He wasn't bad at it. He was arrogant. He assumed I would never look. I clicked on a folder labeled Adam, Education. Inside, there was a PDF invoice dated 3 weeks ago. The standard luxury student living, penthouse suite A, 12-month lease. The total, including the turnkey designer furniture package and the entertainment tech suite, was $45,000. I stared at the number. $45,000. I closed my eyes and let the memory wash over me, not an emotional memory, but a financial one. 7 years ago, I was 22 coding the beta version of my first app on a laptop that overheated if I ran too many tabs. I was working 3 jobs: barista at 5 a.m., data entry at noon, coding until 3 a.m. I had asked my father for a $5,000 loan to cover server costs. Just a loan, with interest. I remembered his exact words delivered over a dinner of meatloaf I had paid for. "Alyssa, we just don't have the liquidity right now. You need to learn grit. Handouts make you soft." Grit? I looked back at the invoice for Adam's penthouse. Granite countertops, in-unit washer and dryer, a gaming lounge. Adam didn't need grit. Adam needed a resort. I scrolled further back. 2 years ago. The car loan. My father loves to tell this story at Thanksgiving. I co-signed for Alyssa's first decent car. I got her on the road. He tells it with his chest puffed out, the benevolent patriarch. The ledger told a different story. I pulled up the bank transfer records. Yes, he co-signed. But 6 months later, when his day trading account took a nosedive, he called me in a panic. He couldn't make his own truck payment. I wired him $12,000. I paid off my car note in full to get his name off the title, and then I paid 3 months of his mortgage so he wouldn't default. He never paid me back. He never even said thank you. Instead, he rewrote history. In his version, he saved me. In the ledger's version, I was the silent partner keeping his solvency afloat. I leaned back in my Herman Miller chair, the leather cool against my skin. For years, I thought I was the daughter. I thought if I just became successful enough, wealthy enough, impressive enough, I would graduate from burden to pride. But looking at these numbers, the $45,000 for Adam's comfort versus the 0 for my survival, I finally understood the business model of this family. I wasn't the daughter. I was the resource. Adam wasn't the son. He was the investment. They didn't nurture me because you don't nurture a generator. You just extract power from it until it burns out. They poured everything into Adam because he was their vanity project, the reflection of the lifestyle they wanted but couldn't afford. My success didn't make them proud. It made them resentful. It ruined the narrative that they were the providers. Every check I wrote was a reminder of their own mediocrity. "Okay," I said again. The justification was complete. I didn't owe them loyalty. I didn't owe them gratitude. And I certainly didn't owe them a key to my house. I closed the education folder and opened a new tab. Public records. If they could spend $45,000 on a dorm room while claiming cash flow issues, where was the money actually coming from? My father hadn't made a successful trade in a decade. I typed in my parents' address. The search bar spun, and then the first domino fell. 2 days later, I went on the offensive. Not with an argument, but with an asset display. I posted a 60-second high-definition video tour of the mansion's east wing on social media. I didn't caption it with emotional platitudes about blessings. I captioned it like a portfolio piece. 3,000 square foot guest wing. Ocean views. Onyx ensuite, ready for occupancy. It went viral in 3 hours. Strangers commented about the dream life. Former classmates sent direct messages filled with envy. But I was waiting for one specific notification. At 4:12 p.m., it arrived. He didn't like the post. He didn't comment "congratulations" or "proud of you." He sent a direct text message. "That east wing. Is it fully furnished? I might need a place to crash for a few weeks. Business is complicated. Send me the gate code. I'll stop by tonight to check it out." I stared at the phone, feeling the blood drain from my face, not from fear, but from the sheer icy precision of his entitlement. Send me the gate code. He wasn't asking. He was requisitioning. In that moment, the final piece of the psychological puzzle clicked into place. I finally understood why my success enraged them while Adam's failure endeared him to them. It's a concept I'd read about in business psychology, but seeing it play out in my own bloodline was jarring. To a narcissistic parent, an independent child isn't a person. They are an asset class. When the asset performs well, you don't congratulate it. You liquidate it. You extract value. He didn't love me. He loved my utility. He loved that I was a resource he could tap when his own poor management caused a deficit. Adam was the emotional child, the one they projected their desired self-image onto. I was the resource child, the insurance policy they resented having to pay premiums on, but felt entitled to cash out the moment they crashed their own car. He wanted the gate code because he believed he owned the asset. He believed that by virtue of donating genetic material 29 years ago, he held a controlling interest in my empire. I might need a place to crash. The casualness was the weapon. He was trying to minimize the ask, to make it sound like he was doing me a favor by occupying my space. I didn't reply. I didn't say no. I didn't say why. I simply took a screenshot of the text. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to Sydney. If my father, a man who hadn't admitted to a mistake since 1998, was admitting that business was complicated and asking to move into his daughter's house, it wasn't just a rough patch. It was a catastrophe. And if he was coming for my home, I needed to know exactly what he was running from. I pressed call. I didn't reply to my father. I didn't send a question mark. I didn't ask, what's wrong? I closed the messaging app and opened my contacts. I scrolled to Sydney. Sydney wasn't just my best friend. She was a shark in a silk blouse. As a high-end interior designer for the Pacific Northwest's elite, she knew every real estate secret in the state. She knew who was buying, who was selling, and more importantly, who was quietly liquidating assets to stay out of bankruptcy court. She picked up on the first ring. Alyssa, I saw the video tour. The lighting in the atrium is perfection. Tell me you're celebrating. I'm not celebrating, I said, my voice flat. I'm auditing. I need a favor. Name it. Run a title search on my parents' house. 4209 Oak Creek Drive. I need to know if there are any liens, judgments, or recent activity. Sydney paused. The social tone evaporated, replaced by professional sharpness. Why? Because my father just asked for the gate code to my estate. He says business is complicated. He wants to crash. Men like my father don't crash, Sydney. They occupy. Understood, she said. Give me 10 minutes. I'll pull the county clerk records and the MLS history. We hung up. I didn't pace. I didn't wring my hands. I sat at my desk and opened my own laptop to check the public court records. I felt a strange sense of calm. For 29 years, my relationship with my family had been a fog of guilt and unspoken expectations. But data was clean. Data didn't gaslight you. Data didn't eat pizza in a dorm room while ignoring your achievements. Data just was. I searched my father's name in the county civil court database. Nothing recent, a few parking tickets from 2019. I checked his business license. Active, but the annual filing fee had been paid late 3 years in a row. Small cracks, but not a catastrophe. Not enough to explain why he would debase himself by asking me for housing. My phone rang. It was Sydney. 7 minutes had passed. I have the report, she said. Her voice was different now. Lower. Serious. Tell me. Alyssa, are you sitting down? I'm sitting. Just give me the numbers. Okay. So, on the surface, the deed looks fine. He bought it in '98. It appreciated nicely. And Sydney took a breath. I dug deeper into the recorded encumbrances. 18 months ago, a new lien was recorded against the property. A secondary loan. A massive one. How massive? $250,000. High-interest private lender. The kind you go to when the bank says no. My mind raced. $250,000. That was the exact timeline of Adam's college acceptance. That was the timeline of the new car my mother had suddenly driven up in last Christmas. He took out $250,000 in equity, I asked. Yes. But that's not the problem, Alyssa. What's the problem? The problem is the filing date from 3 days ago. It's a notice of trustee sale. The room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Translate that, I said, though I already knew. It means he stopped paying the shadow mortgage 6 months ago. The lender has initiated foreclosure. The auction is scheduled for next Tuesday. I stared at the wall of glass overlooking the ocean. Next Tuesday, I repeated. He doesn't own that house anymore, Alyssa. He's days away from being evicted. He isn't asking to visit you. He's homeless. The realization clicked into place like a deadbolt sliding home. The missed housewarming, the exhaustion, the complicated business. They weren't just rude. They were frantic. They were drowning, and they had looked at my success not with pride but as a life raft. They weren't coming to celebrate me. They were coming to survive off me. Send me the documents, I said. All of them. Sent. Alyssa. What are you going to do? I looked at the security monitor on my desk. The cameras showed the long, winding driveway leading up to my gate. Empty for now, but not for long. I'm going to protect my asset, I said. I watched the PDF download progress bar fill up. 100%. I opened the file Sydney had sent. It wasn't just a foreclosure notice. It was an autopsy of my parents' financial sanity. I scrolled through the timeline of the shadow mortgage. 18 months ago. The exact month Adam got accepted into that private university he had no business attending. The loan amount $250,000. The interest rate predatory. They hadn't just made a mistake. They had leveraged their entire existence, the house I grew up in, the only asset they owned, to fund a lifestyle for Adam that they couldn't afford. They had bet the farm on the golden child, and the golden child had generated zero returns. And now the bank was calling the loan. I looked at the date on the notice to vacate. They had to be out by midnight tonight. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. It wasn't about missing my housewarming. It wasn't about exhaustion. They missed my gala because they were frantically packing boxes into a storage unit, trying to hide the fact that they were destitute. And the text asking for the gate code. I might need a place to crash. He wasn't asking for a vacation. He was asking for residency. I knew the laws in this state. If I let them in, if I let them move a single suitcase into the East Wing and stay for even a few days, they could claim tenancy. They could establish squatters' rights. To get them out, I would have to formally evict them. It would take months. Months of them living in my sanctuary, bleeding me dry while I paid for the lawyers to remove them. They weren't visiting. They were invading. They viewed my home not as a place of celebration, but as a lifeboat for their own wreckage. They were going to drag me down with them, and they were going to call it family obligation. My phone buzzed again. It was a notification from the estate's perimeter security system. Motion detected main gate. License plate recognized Dad 1. I pulled up the live feed. There it was, my father's SUV idling at the bottom of the long, winding driveway. The back was weighed down, sagging low over the rear tires. Through the tinted glass, I could see the silhouette of boxes stacked to the ceiling. They hadn't come with a bottle of wine. They had come with everything they owned. I looked at the time. 6:42 p.m. They were early, they were desperate, and they were assuming that the daughter who had always paid the bills, the daughter who had always sought their approval, would simply buzz them in. They were wrong. The daughter they knew was gone. She died the moment they chose a futon over her future. The woman sitting in this office was the CEO of her own life, and she was about to execute a hostile takeover of the narrative. I picked up my iPad. I didn't feel fear. I felt the cold, sharp clarity of a surgeon picking up a scalpel. I opened the smart home control panel. "System," I whispered. "Override." The intercom buzzed, a sharp digital chirp that pierced the silence of my office. I tapped the screen on my iPad to activate the audio, but I kept my own microphone muted. I wanted to hear them before they knew I was listening. "She's probably in the back," my mother's voice filtered through, tinny and anxious. "Robert, what if she's not home?" "Her car is there," my father snapped. "She's home. She's probably just working." He said the word working like it was a hobby. "Just keep buzzing. She'll let us in. She always does. She always does." That was their entire retirement plan in 3 words. I unmuted the microphone. "State your business," I said. My voice filled the cabin of their SUV, amplified by the high-fidelity speakers at the gate. I saw my father jump. He leaned out the window, putting on his best jovial dad smile. It looked grotesque on his gray, sweating face. "Alyssa, honey, you scared us. The gate's closed. We were in the neighborhood and thought we'd surprise you. We brought wine." He held up a bottle. It looked cheap. "You're not in the neighborhood, Dad," I said. "You live 40 miles away. And you didn't bring wine. You brought boxes." His smile faltered. "What? No, those are just donations. For the church. Look, it's cold out here. Just buzz us in, we can catch up." "I know, Dad." "Know what?" "I know about the shadow mortgage. I know about the $250,000 you borrowed to play venture capitalist with Adam's life. And I know that as of midnight tonight, you don't have a home to go back to." Silence. Absolute terrified silence. My mother started to cry, her hands covering her face. My father's face went from pale to a deep, violacious red. "You have no right," he sputtered, dropping the act. "I am your father. I raised you. I co-signed your first car. You owe me this. Open this gate." "I owe you nothing," I said. "I paid that car off 7 years ago. I paid your mortgage for 3 months when you forgot. I have the receipts. Do you?" "We are family," he screamed, pounding the steering wheel. "You cannot leave us on the street. We need a place to stay for a few weeks, just until the settlement comes through." "There is no settlement," I replied. "There is only an auction next Tuesday." He opened his car door and stepped out. He walked up to the camera, staring directly into the lens, his eyes wild. "If you don't open this gate, Alyssa, I will sue you. I will tell everyone what a heartless, ungrateful bitch you are. I will break this lock myself. You're welcome to try, I said. But before you do, you should check your phone. I looked down at my iPad. The smart home app was open. The user profile for Dad was highlighted. This wasn't just a button press. It was an execution of their hold on me. I didn't hesitate. I tapped Revoke Access. A red banner flashed across the screen. ACCESS denied. Permanent ban active. Biometric data wiped. Then I opened the family group chat, the one Adam was in, the one my aunts and uncles were in. I uploaded the PDF of the foreclosure notice. Then I uploaded the invoice for Adam's $45,000 dorm. I typed one caption: "You didn't come to warm my house. You came to burn it down to keep yourselves warm. My home is not your lifeboat. Figure it out. Send." On the monitor, I saw my father's phone light up in his hand. He looked down. He read. I saw the exact moment his knees buckled. You posted this," he whispered, looking up at the camera, his voice broken. "To everyone. You wanted to crash, Dad," I said, my voice ice cold. "Now you've crashed." I pressed the button to cut the audio feed. Outside, he was screaming, shaking the iron bars of the gate. But inside the glass cliff, silence. Perfect protective silence. I watched the taillights of my father's SUV disappear down the driveway, a pair of angry red eyes fading into the coastal fog. He didn't come back. He knew better. Men like my father rely on the premise that you will always open the door. Once they realize the lock is real, they don't fight. They fold. 2 days later, the foreclosure auction happened. The family home, the place where I grew up, the place they leveraged to fund their vanity, was sold to a property developer for pennies on the dollar. Adam didn't finish the semester in the penthouse. With the shadow mortgage gone and my father's credit ruined, the lease on the Standard was voided. I heard through Sydney that he moved into a shared studio with 3 other guys. He's sleeping on a real mattress now. Maybe he'll finally learn grit. As for me, I walked out onto the balcony of the East Wing. The sun was setting, painting the Pacific in shades of bruised purple and gold. For the first time since I broke ground on this estate, the silence didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel lonely. It felt impenetrable. I had spent my entire life building bridges to people who only wanted to burn them. I thought if I built the bridge strong enough, wide enough, expensive enough, they would finally walk across it to meet me. But tonight, standing on the edge of my own world, I realized I didn't need a bridge. I needed a moat. I pulled out my phone one last time. I opened the smart home app. I renamed the location from the estate to the sanctuary. Then I turned off the phone, set it on the table, and listened to the sound of the ocean crashing against the rocks below. It wasn't a violent sound anymore. It was the sound of a fortress holding the line. I realized that day that family isn't who you share blood with. It's who you share respect with. If you've ever had to build a fortress to protect your peace, share this story. You are not alone.